ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another OneSwimming video. So today I'm going to show you, is the purple scar worth it? Is it good? Should you build it or should you use something else? I'm going to give you the basics of how this gun works. First of all, how do you unlock this purple scar? You can unlock this gun by accessing it in the wish machine, which is obtained or unlocked from the mimetic screen. Then we go to facilities, function, wish machine, boom. And in the long awaited, you will be able to get one scar blueprint over here. You can press an exclamation mark and see what are the chances to get it. You can get this on your first roll by 10%, or you can get it on your last roll. Although one roll costs 100 star crumbs, so you just click and you're either gonna get the scar, the AK, or the random blueprints. I got my scar in the first roll and then I got an AK blueprint. You can also directly press G and buy the rifle here, but I don't recommend that. Just press make a wish, play this thing here. All right, let's get started. Let's go to blueprints. Let's go to the scar, right click the scar, details, scroll down, press X on the I keyword, and here you can read what Power Surge does. I'm gonna quickly explain how it is. It deals status damage of 50% of PSI intensity once and inflicts Power Surge status for 6 seconds. And it will remove -40 accuracy on whoever has received that debuff. Power Surge cannot crit, cannot strike weak spots, and will not decay with distance. Other procs like Unstable Bomber, etc. do decay over distance. Burn does not decay by distance. Frost Vortex does not decay with distance. And lastly, Power Surge doesn't decay with distance. This blue damage that you're seeing on the screen right now, 1750, that damage comes from PSI intensity, 914, except it's halved, 457. Then you can press C to view your all stats in the gear tab in your inventory. And then we just take that 457 multiplied with 86.4 status damage. Scroll down a little bit until you see shock damage bonus. You also multiply that by 37.2% multiplied with Power Surge damage bonus. Now there's many factors because our cradle is also increasing Power Surge damage. So it's not only our mods increasing the damage. You can see that this right here, after triggering a Power Surge damage plus 25% for 3 seconds. So whenever you trigger Power Surge, your damage increases by 25% for Power Surge. You can see right there, I triggered it. Boom, the damage is a little bit higher, 1543. After 3 seconds, the damage disappears. So this is a really good cradle buff. You'll need this, as you can see right there. And if I reloaded the gun, we're gonna do even more damage. Right there, 1756. I don't know why it took so long for that to increase, but these are the cradle buffs that do that. So if you want to fully calculate your damage, you would have to shoot, reload, and then do all these multiplications. Although I'm not a math nerd, I'm just giving you the basics of how the damage is calculated. One thing I need to tell you though, don't really pay attention to the stats it says here. The additional damage cannot crit, cannot strike weak spots, and will not decay with distance. This is for shock element. The status damage doesn't do that. This is for shock element. Shock element is considered elemental damage. And why this is so important is because this gun cannot crit. The MP7 also cannot crit on Power Surge. Power Surges cannot crit. The only gun that can do that is the Corrosion Shotgun, which is this. You can see that this shotgun does... Power Surge can deal crit hit, Power Surge crit rate plus 15%. Basically, this is the only gun that can crit. So if you were using shock element or elemental damage mods, which are these, you can see element, blaze, frost, shock, blast. If you used these mod stats, these mods would only increase your Power Surge damage, but wouldn't increase the crit damage. So just know that. But this doesn't apply to the purple scar, so we're fine here. Let's read the stats now of the purple scar. 35% chance to trigger Power Surge when hitting an enemy. So that's the base chance. Remember that. And crit hits increase the chance of triggering Power Surge by 30% based on weapons trigger chance for 3 seconds. So once again, most of the stats in this game are not additive. They are multiplicative. So there's some people saying that in the comments, oh, this is additive and stuff. No, it's not. That would be too broken if guns would have 90% proc chance. Like, hello? Basically, once you do crit hits, it will increase the chance of triggering Power Surge. So whenever you trigger a crit, which I'm doing white damage right now, that's not working. There you go, I did a crit, and then I will have an increased 10.5% chance. So instead of 35% triggering Power Surge, I will have 45.5%. Now, there are some mods that increase your triggering chance even more, which would be the Shock Rampage. However, this only gives you 20% bonus chance, which converted 20% of 35 would be only a 7% increase of trigger chance. So if you use this mod, you would be increasing your triggering chance by 7%. It does say 20%, but remember, it says based on weapons trigger chance. So we are multiplying that 20% out of 35% from the scar's base chance. So this mod, 7% trigger chance. I am using this mod instead, power surge status duration minus 50% and power surge damage plus 20%. I'm using this one. You could be using another mod that basically increases the damage as you trigger power surge, which stacks to 4 times. You could use that, but I'm just sticking with static shock. You can see we have status damage bonus and elemental damage on this mod for the gun. This is by far the best mod I have. It does the most damage. There's another one that I have, but it doesn't have as much status damage. It has HP, which would be good for PvP, but for PvE I use this. For PvP I use this because of the max HP. But this is the mod for the purple scar. It's great. If you don't have this mod is obtained from killing Treant. You can also kill Shadow Hound to get the static shock or the shock rampage. The Shadow Hound drops every single weapon modification in the game in normal mode, but if you go to hard mode, it will not drop you these. It will drop you instead bounce and shrapnel. Okay, and lastly, plus 30% chance of triggering power surge based on weapons trigger chance. So in total, if we summed up all the trigger chances we have for proccing power surge, 30% of 35% base chance would be just another 10.5% increase. So we actually have 45.5% chance to trigger, and if we did crit, that would be another 10.5%. So in total to trigger power surge would be 56 and 45.5 if you're not critting. So an ideal build for the scar would be, you probably might wonder, crit, right? We are going to be using Deviations Expert. However, I tried using crit versus status damage, and status damage still seems to do more damage. Let's take a look at this. So right now, our mods are used Deviations Expert on Mayfly Goggles. You will need Mayfly Goggles for Power Surge because it will increase. It will add up 1 trigger count. So instead of when you shoot the target, you will trigger 2 elemental damages instead of 1. If I unequip the helm, you can see that when I trigger, it just only appears once. So you will need to find these Mayfly Goggles and use them. They are found in the Spider Monolith over here. Make sure you loot the mystical crate there. Now for Falcon Mask, we are using Thunderclap. There could be a better mod to use, however I haven't found one yet. So it basically, after triggering Power Surge 20 times, it will summon this thunder that does damage equal of 200% PSI intensity. So if you use these goggles, instead of 20 times triggering, you will need to trigger it 10 times, because instead of 1, we get 2, so that would be 10 times we have to trigger to make that thunder spawn like that. Or inflict the damage. What am I saying? Spawn. What? Anyways, for Falcon Gloves, we are using element damage. Now, here's the thing. You could use a crit amplifier like this, which gives you crit rate plus 10%, crit damage plus 15%. And then on top of that, the substats give you crit damage. You could be using that. And if we check, our crit rate right now is 25.2%. Our crit damage is 100%. Let's test our damage. We did 127k damage with the crit amplifier. Now I'm gonna swap to the elemental damage one. Shoot, reload, and let's test it now. And you can see I did 135k damage with that. I don't know, man. I would still go for elemental damage. You will need to put 2 crit rates on 2 stats. Do not go for elemental damage. Don't go for crit damage. Just go for crit rate, as that's the hardest part to get. So you can also use a crit rate mod, but you will lose crit damage. It's only 5% more crit rate that you're getting from this mod. So as you can see, I also have a crit damage substat, which is nice. So it's a little bit of a compensation. And instead of, we will get 30% crit rate if we use that. And if we use the crit amplifier, we will get 25%. So you could experiment with both of these mods, crit amplifier, crit rate. The way you obtain the crit amplifier and the crit boost is from completing Silo Sigma hard mode. I will provide a full mod sheet list on how and where to get the mods, what bosses drop. So just check the mod sheet list. I'm not going to explain over and over where to get mods in the pinned comments. These are all obtained from hard mode. You can also get these mods from looting crates, which are gear crates, and you can get lower tiers of them from Silo Sigma. Silo Sigma normal mode drops all gear parts, except it will not be purple. It will be highest tier is blue. For shoes, we're using Covered Advance. This mod is not that great because the substats isn't that good. So in general, this mod is the best. The core stats is good, but what I mean is that the substats suck. I need to get a better version of this mod, which would be probably higher status damage with elemental damage, and then that would be ideal. But instead we got a damage against normal enemies, and it's purple as well. I upgraded this mod 3 times, and it gave me all on this thing, damage against normal zombies. This mod is the best. You can use either covered advance or you can use slow and steady. Except the slow and steady has a condition. You will get plus 10% additional damage if your HP is above 90%. That's why I'm sticking with this one. For this one, there's only one condition, which is you cannot take damage for 4 seconds. Once you don't take damage, you will receive this buff for 30 seconds, and you will have that 20% increase, regardless if your HP is below 90% or not. So this is why I prefer this mod. For the top, we are using a flame resonance, or it's supposed to be called status enhancement mod, but the devs forgot to change the title of the mod. Flame resonance is another mod that is for burn, so I don't know what's happening here. But anyways, this mod, I got this mod from Sigma Silo normal mode, or you can get it from tier 3 locations or tier 4 locations by looting gear crates, and that's how you can get blue mods. That's the only way. There's no other way. You cannot get blue mods from tier 5 locations. It has to be lower tier location. This mod is not that good because it has a blue substat and it has a gray substat. What you want to do actually is get one blue substat and you want to get one green substat. And then you will enhance it to blue. You can only enhance it once. And after you fully enhance this, and the maximum you can enhance is blue. You cannot go purple on a blue mod. So that's why you want to get a green substat. That would be ideal. If you don't want to use a blue mod for damage, go with something. If you manage to get really good substats on a gold mod, then use something like that. But most of the chest mods are terrible. Another option is to use a HP boost. You can get a HP boost that applies to all armor. So in this case, if this was gold, you could put it on the chest piece. You can also see that this increases my HP by 10%, max HP by 4.8%. This would be also good for PvP if you're using it. For PvE though, just use a damage boost. It doesn't really matter. Could use a status damage, or you can use a crit damage amplifier. Again, you get these blue mods from Silo Sigma normal mode. So if I put this on, let's test our damage again. I'm gonna try to test the damage. Let's see if this is with crit damage amplifier on the chest piece. You can see we did 109k damage. And if we go to our chest piece again, status enhancement. Now let's see the damage. Now we did 117k damage. So I just think that status damage wins in general. But yeah, the only way to get more crit rate would be getting a crit calibration. And I made a video on calibration blueprints. Go check that video out. It will be in the pinned comments. The one way we can increase our crit rate is by getting a lone wolf part, which we have to get 2 parts of it. Once we get 2 lone wolf parts, it will give us 10% mag cap and it will give us 5% crit rate. Now you could use this armor. That would be actually great for the Scar build, but I think the Scar build falls behind the MP7. I don't think it's worth to use this gun, especially that you have to compensate this gun's fire rate with this calibration here. Fire rate plus 20% and reload speed plus 40%, but you lose attack minus 10%. So you basically, the Scar shoots very slow without this calibration. It shoots very slow and the bullets feel very slow as well. So for PvP, this gun is not good. For PvE, it could work, but still the MP7 just beats this gun by like 10 times. But you could still make it work. It could be your temporary gun until you get the MP7, so why not? Sure. Now for the pants, we are using Deadshot, and there's no better mod than Deadshot, honestly. If you take a look at my sheets and scroll down a little bit to the bottoms, this is all the mods available for the bottom piece for your armor. There are some more mods available over here, but these are not found, and these have been either removed from the game or renamed. So if you want to help me out, find these mods, just join my Discord, DM me, let me know. Thank you, by the way. Deadshot is on the top, is the best mod currently I could use. There's also Reload Rampage that's found in Silo PSI. Killing 2 enemies refills 2 bullets from inventory, no more than half of the mag, and grants plus 10% weapon and status damage, lasting until the next reload. This would be ideal for PvE, but for PvP that wouldn't work really. You'd have to kill 2 people for that. I actually don't even know if it works against players. You could use the bullet siphon, but it just doesn't benefit from that much. Then there's the status amplification. When the magazine is empty, status damage plus 10% for 12 seconds, up to 3 stacks. This mod, you could use it, but another problem with this mod is you have to fully reload your mag from 0 bullets. If you reload from 1 bullet, from 5 bullets, if you reload higher than 0, this mod will not work. For shoes, we're using the covered advance. Again, we need to update this mod, so These are the mods we are using. Now let me actually change my mods to crit rate right there. For the helmet, if you used Fateful Strike, it wouldn't really work because the scar will shoot slower and your damage just becomes less by less fire rate you have. So let's test with Fateful Strike. You can see we get 100k damage with Fateful Strike over here on the helmet. I'm gonna actually put a crit damage enhancement on the top piece, and on gloves we have a crit boost violent, which gives us crit rate plus 15%. Now we have 42% crit. If I had Lone Wolf armor, then my crit would be even way higher, but let's see how much damage we do. So we did 120k damage, DPS was around 30 to 33k. Now let's put the Deviation Expert back. Chest piece we put status enhancement. For gloves we put back the Elemental Damage Overload. And now let's test our damage. You can see that we did 130k with these mods. And the scar shoots faster. Whereas with Fateful Strike, this is how fast it shoots. There's a little bit of a difference. Anyways, with crit, you could make this work, but your crit stats or substats would have to be godly tier rolls. For me, you can see that Fateful Strike I have doesn't have really great stats. Another thing I want to talk about is the Elemental Overload gives plus 18% elemental damage. Now if we used this one, status enhancement for the gloves, plus 20% status damage. The funny thing is, for some reason, this scales way worse than it would with elemental damage. So right now we have 19.2% shock damage bonus. And with elemental damage mod, we have 37.2%. So let's put on the elemental damage now and test it on the dummy. Let's see our damage. Power Surge damage was 1991. And now let's swap the mod to status damage. Let's shoot one bullet, reload, and quickly. You can see that the damage is 1748. So that's why I don't use status enhancement for the gloves and I stick with Elemental Overload. There you go. Now let's test our full damage. Yep, there you go. We reached what? Almost 40k with just elemental damage. Deviation Expert, mask is Thunderclap, gloves is Elemental Overload, shoes is Covered Advance, chest piece is Flame Resonance, and bottom's Deadshot. I could actually put the status amplification and let's see how that works. Now we're gonna reload and get increased 10% damage. We're gonna reload again. It's gonna stack to 2 times, so 20%. Reload again. You can see this thing just keeps stacking up and up. Status damage plus 10% for 12 seconds, up to 3 stacks. This would be good for PvE. Okay, if you're PvPing, then you would have to use Deadshot. But if you manually reload your magazine on one bullet, then this mod would not be for you. You would have to fully empty out your mag. Okay, so now I want to talk about something else. We are using Falcon gloves, and actually I have Shelterer gloves that actually give me plus 8% damage on second part I wear. So let's equip that. So right now we're going to test the Falcon gloves again, damage. Let's try it out. We're doing 2036 elemental damage or power surge damage. Now let's equip the Shelterer gloves. And you can see we're doing 2241 damage with the Shelterer gloves. So you would want to use 2 parts of Shelterer for the elemental 8% increase. It's a nice gain, you know? However, if you use Falcon gloves, you can see my gloves are 4-star. The more you star up your armor, the more PSI intensity you will get. All my gear is 2-star. Falcon mask is 4-star. Shelterer gloves is 1-star. The Falcon gloves are 4-star. The heavy duty shoes are 4-star. The Agent top is 5-star. the shelter pants as 2-star. The more stars you have, the more HP you will have, and the more PSI intensity you will have. And do note, if you have a purple that is 5-star, sometimes it might be better than a 1-star gold, because it will give you more HP, more PSI intensity. Compared to a purple, the 1-star, definitely 5-star will win that. So that's why I'm using an agent top for that, even though it doesn't give me any damage boost, or that's why I'm not using a lone wolf part. Even though I could be using lone wolf pants for that 10% mag cap. And if you compared agent bottoms to lone wolf, it gives you around 200 more HP and 66 PSI intensity versus 74, so that's just 8 PSI intensity. And it's hard starting up or upgrading your blueprint of gold armor, so that's why I have agent top. For the mask, I have a scout mask, which is 4 stars. And if I wore that, that would just increase my HP by 1k or 1.2k. You can see max HP goes to 14.7k. If I use the falcon mask, it goes to 13.5k. So that's why I use scout mask, if you're wondering. If I wear the scout mask though, take a look at my PSI intensity. So I'm gonna put the mod on the scout mask now. And we will do less damage with the scout mask versus falcon mask. And take a look at the damage. 2095 damage with the scout mask. And if I replace to falcon mask, it's gonna be 2100 something, 30. Yeah, 2141. So that's why I'm wearing the falcon mask for this scar build. If you have more PSI intensity, you will always do more damage. So let's say you wear another armor piece and you see, whoa, my PSI intensity is lower. Then just know that your elemental damage will be lower as well, because that's how it works. So in conclusion, goggles, falcon mask, or scout mask, up to your choice. You can use a lone wolf mask. You can use a renegade mask, shelterer mask, up to you, honestly. As long as you have 2 shelterer parts, it's good. You can use 1 heavy duty part for max HP, or you can use 2 heavy duty parts for the elemental damage. Again, agent top, I chose it only for PSI intensity on the 5-star, and shelterer is the second part for that 8% increase. Now we're gonna test the scars damage versus the MP7 damage. Let's go. $126k. MP7 time, ladies and gentlemen. Crit rate. My MP7 has 2 crit rates and magazine capacity plus 60%. Let's put on this mod on the MP7. All the mods we are using are the same. And let's go. Now you can see we went up to 50k DPS and 185k total. Now of course the damage is higher because of the mag cap, but this gun fires way faster than the scar. That's why I preferred way more. Let's try it again. Sometimes it could go up to 240k. This time it went to 200. Last time I tested it went very high. But the same thing happens with MP7. You can see we do 2094. If I swapped my mods to like this status 20% increase, I would do way lower damage for some reason. There you go, 1693. So we just want to use elemental overload. So for the scar mods, we are using hammer compensator. You can use this or this. It will have insane recoil if you use this. This one, it's a balance. For the sight, we use the compact reflex sight bought from the shop. Laser sight explored in Red Sands. I have a video on where to find all the accessories, so make sure you check that video out. It will be in the pinned comments and the description. As for the magazine, you need to use the gold mag. If you use the purple one, you will have 30 bullets instead of 38. So also, when you build your mods for the scar, you could have magazine capacity, so you have more bullets in your mag, and as well using lone wolf part for that magazine capacity. So for the cradle buffs, you want to have automatic weapon enhancement plus 20% damage when holding rifles. If you use a sniper, use this, 20% damage when holding snipers. Status enhancement, after hitting a weak spot, status damage will be increased by 25% for 3 seconds. You'd have to basically hit a weak spot. If you take a look, we're doing 1448, 1623. Now if I shot the head, I'll do 1840. So we need the status enhancement. Deviation Master, you can use this if you summon your demon and fight with it. It will give you 50% damage increase, although I don't really use it. So replace it with either this if you PvP, or this if you PvP, or that. Tactical combo, weapon damage 25% for 4 seconds after switching weapons or reloading. It says and explains everything what it does, so I don't have to show it. After triggering a power surge damage plus 25% for 3 seconds. You also need this. First round blast after reloading, instant damage. Power Surge, and Unstable Bomber 25 for 4 seconds. All of these buffs that you reload, swap your weapons are important, so make sure you have these. And lastly is Sprint, which is just 5% movement speed when sprinting. You don't really have to use this, but I use it for more movement speed. Now, instead of that, you could use like a Bounty Hunter. After defeating a unit you marked, weapon damage plus 25%, weak spot damage plus 35%, lasting for 15 seconds. And you can mark targets with either a crossbow, which is the bullseye. You can also mark it with the bingo, AWS, which also marks targets when you shoot them. And whenever they're marked and you kill them while they're marked, you will get that damage increase. That's why you could use this. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've covered everything in this video. Let me know your thoughts about this weapon. I would say that the MP7 that I'm holding right now in my hands is way better than the Scar. It melts, it shreds, it beams, laser beams, it fries, whatever you like to call it, this gun. The MP7 is just way better in my opinion. They both use Power Surge, they're both identical, so the only difference between the MP7 and the Scar is that the Scar utilizes cradle a little bit because you'll get 10.5% more trigger chance with the Scar if you crit, while the MP7 doesn't have that. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something new, and leave a comment down below what you want to see next. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.